Hello everyone, welcome to Anime No Mi, and thank you for joining us for another One Piece video. In today's video, we're gonna take some time to discuss Joy Boy. Now, Joy Boy became a symbol in the past and had many achievements all over the world, but gradually his story has been erased along with all of the history of an entire century, all because of some reason by the world government. Somehow, they managed to make the events of 800 years ago just disappear and cease to exist, making the events of a past an empty and information-free era. But because of archaeologists who were able to read and understand the poneglyphs, little by little this knowledge was passed on to the world. Now, in our current story, we have Odin and Nico Robin, who are the most recent people who have been able to read these indestructible stones. And it is their job, therefore, to spread the knowledge written on these stones out to the world. The information on these stones isn't limited to just the Void Century as well. It seems to reveal the existence of an incredibly important person who lived at that time, whose history was erased. And this person was called Joy Boy, possibly being the very first user of the Fruit of the Sun God. So in today's video, we're going to talk about Joy Boy, everything we know about him so far, what could become Joy Boy, and what achievements this mysterious person may have made in the past so that all this history was erased. But before we dive into the video, if you're new to the channel, we'd be absolutely honored if you consider leaving us a like, or even subscribing with a comment letting us know what you thought of the video. It really helps us out and motivates us to make more content. And if you'd like to help out the channel in a bigger way, consider sharing the video with a friend. Without further ado, let's get into the video. So friends, from the information given so far about the name Joy Boy, everything seems to indicate that Joy Boy is a title or a will passed on to the people who are worthy of inheriting it. There may be other requirements to possess this title, or a determination, or perhaps to have the surname D, which is so far something very quite mysterious and enigmatic, because it's said by those who carry the will of D are considered demons or enemies to the world nobles. But it's also been said that this surname has been changing the world for a very long time, and may be referring to the power of the sun god Nika, or at least maybe the title of Joy Boy. But the little information we also have seems to indicate that people who carry the surname D, the fruit of the sun god Nika, and Joy Boy, they may all have an incredibly decent connection because they have a very ancient history, existing of course from 800 years ago. And it may be the connection of the three that caused this history to be erased. And not only that, they could be connected to the event that caused someone to have erased the history of all of what happened 800 years ago, not just Joy Boy. Even though there are several possibilities for what the title of Joy Boy could actually mean, it's not yet been fully explained about how one attains this title. But we do know that there are people in the world currently that have been waiting a very long time for a new Joy Boy to emerge. For should a Joy Boy emerge, it could be the beginning of a new world of peace and goodness. For this new person who would become Joy Boy could overthrow the world government and the world nobles, bringing in a new era without leaders who control everything. So far, two people are known to have received this title of Joy Boy. The first and best known was an extremely relevant figure from 800 years ago, who played an important role in the history of Fishman Island and left behind a certain item of unimaginable value on the last island of the Grand Line. This as yet unknown person who possessed the real One Piece treasure may be related to the surname D, and this person also had in his possession the greatest treasure in the world, being the one responsible for originating the legends that motivated Roger, and that later made Roger start his great One Piece treasure hunt. This mysterious person was first mentioned in the Ryukyu poneglyph and was read by Nico Robin while she was in the Sea Forest. Based on the historical recordings that Joy Boy left in the poneglyphs, it's believed that he would return some 800 years in the future. This left fans in the community completely confused about who this mysterious person named Joy Boy was, and why he was mentioned in these oldest of stones, and then again how they would come back one day and do something that would impact the world. And to date, although we've had many different info drops throughout the manga, we still don't know the answer to this question. And even in the most recent chapters of the manga, we still haven't seen really where and how this recycle or this reemergence of Joy Boy would come from. But not having all the details about Joy Boy doesn't leave us completely empty-handed. We've learned now that the world government was the one who tried to keep the story of his existence hidden, and even knowing the origin of this person named Joy Boy. Just consider what the world government did to the island of Ohara, and that absolute massacre that left Nico Robin the sole survivor of her island. They were taken taken out because they seek to know and had gotten very, very close to the actual knowledge of what had happened in the Void Century, and maybe had even gotten close to the connections between Joy Boy, this mysterious fruit, and how he would return. Recently, we've gotten the information about Straw Hat Luffy and how his devil fruit is not in fact the Gomu Gomu no Mi, but the Hito Hito no Mi model Nika. And we also had Zunisha confirm that Joy Boy had returned because the sound of drums that was coming out of Luffy's chest were known as the drums of liberation. But aside from name drops, we really haven't had somebody fully go into his character. Now, whether Zunisha knew him or somebody else, we still haven't gotten that crucial flashback to give us much needed depth into who Joy Boy was. But recently, because Zunisha is near Wano, this actually brings us a very good opportunity to know a little bit more, because it seems that Joy Boy was actually Zunisha's companion. So this great elephant could be the only one that has knowledge about the events related to the former Joy Boy. We also know that in order to prevent a re-emergence of Joy Boy, that the world government had renamed Luffy's fruit so many years ago and hid it and even tried to obtain it just so they could keep it from reawakening. But it also seems that this fruit may in fact have a will of its own, which could mean that the fruit selected who would have the power and could look for a chosen D, which in this case was Luffy. And with Zunisha having lived more than 800 years ago, he knows what happened to his former companion, and now that Luffy has awakened this fruit, it may be Zunisha's arrival in Wano that may reveal everything. After all, Zunisha seemed to be in search of the new Joy Boy. Going back to a little more history, we also know about 900 years, the residents of Fishman Island made a promise to a great man named Joy Boy, and it said that he tried to raise the Noah with Poseidon's help, but he broke his promise to the fishmen for some unknown reasons and ended up leaving an apology in their poneglyph. At some point later, this person became Zunisha's companion, and after wandering the world together, Joy Boy came across the final island now called Laugh Tale by Goldie Roger, and in that place he left behind a treasure, which in the future would be known to the world as the One Piece. We don't know exactly if Joy Boy knew about future events, but we know that he left a message about his return, which was to occur 800 years later, indicating that perhaps Roger may have known the origin of Joy Boy's title in a poneglyph. The apology message left on Fishman Island and Poseidon was also indicating that even though he broke his promise that time, he promised that someone would fulfill it in the future. Another message was left on an unnamed island, claiming that he would return in 800 years. And of course, this ended up being the very island that Roger and his pirates named Laugh Tale. After Roger's crew found this island, they read the message and discovered the true history of the world, but decided to leave it as it was because overall they had arrived too soon. But all the same, after discovering the true history, Roger had wished the two, he and Joy Boy, could have lived during the same period. Long after Roger's era came to an end, the half-promise of Fishman Island was almost broken during the events of the Fishman Island arc, when Luffy was asked to protect the island, even if Noah was destroyed in the process. But before Luffy could destroy the ship completely, the Noah was protected by a group of Sea Kings who were summoned by Shirahoshi. Now, Shirahoshi did this without her knowing, but it ended up making so this part of the promise to the island of fishmen could be fulfilled later, and that Joy Boy still could return to do whatever deed he had set up so many years ago. And despite the fact that the Noah was heavily damaged, the Sea Kings took the ship to the Sea Forest, where they had planned to repair it. And of course, according to King Neptune, there's a legend in the royal family about the person who will fulfill Joy Boy's promise. But isn't just the fishmen awaiting Joy Boy's return either. Amatsuki Toki, who possessed the power of time travel to move forward, used her abilities to go to the Wano country of the future in search of the day when Joy Boy would return. We also know that during Roger's journey, while he was traveling to Fishman Island with Kozuki Odin, Roger and Odin and possibly Rayleigh heard the Sea Kings talk about the birth of someone who would lead them in 25 years together with the new Poseidon. After the crew's discovery in Laugh Tale, Odin returned to his home in the land of Wano, which had a connection to Joy Boy, and made plans to open the borders in preparation for Joy Boy's return. However, his efforts were thwarted by then Shogun Kurizomi Orochi and the pirate Kaido, and the task was left to his successors. Because of Joy Boy's connection to Wano, this also means that many people who live there could know of his existence and are waiting for him to return as well, so that not only he can go on to save the world, but also open up and realize the dream of Odin. It seems even Kaido learned something about Joy Boy and was looking for the next one, because he did see that there was something and some reason to be in Wano. We also remember King, who was a member of the Beast Pirates, a Lunarian, and Kaido's right hand, hand, apparently believed that Kaido could have become Joy Boy and would be able to change the world, although he eventually kind of dismissed this idea, believing maybe it was just a legend. Sometime after Oden lost his life, though, Yamato assumed Oden's identity after reading his diary and worked out to fulfill Oden's dream, waiting for the emergence of the new Joy Boy who was about to emerge in this new era of pirates. And it seems this is something that really may be coming to pass in the present. Of course, we have Luffy and the samurai coming into conflict with Kaido and his pirates. And this all comes together after Luffy was defeated by Kaido on the rooftop, and Zunisha proclaimed that she could hear the drums of liberation and that Joy Boy had returned. Because when we see Luffy rise and regain consciousness, he smiled and he awakened his devil fruit and transformed in his Gear 5th form for the very first time. So with this transformation, Luffy became the next Joy Boy, the person who will be responsible for bringing a new era of peace to the world of One Piece. Now, this isn't going to be some easy task. After all, he's going to have many more powerful enemies that are going to come into his way in the future. So now, not only does Luffy have his current enemies, but potentially all of Joy Boy's enemies as well. Because there could be people in the world who are still waiting for the return for that Straw Hat pirate, including the Sea Kings, including anybody else, and whoever originally wanted to see the history of the world erased. But for now, we'd love to know what you think about it. What do you think about our history and possibly Joy Boy's timeline? How do you think it all works out, and where do you think we might go from here? Let us know in the comments below. But my friends, as we wrap up our video, I want to thank you so much for watching it all the way to the very end. Make sure you comment on any themes or ideas that you'd like to see in future videos. And also, since you made it this far, give us a like as you head out to take on the rest of your day. Hope to see you all in our next video, and let's keep sailing this giant sea together. Take care.